Look up the word crazy in the dictionary and you might just find an asterisk beside the definition that says, listen to the Subiquitous podcast featuring Sue Duffield and you'll find out what crazy means. Sue's travelogue journey of unfiltered stories, impossible miracles, and faith-filled fun will be revisited right here. So buckle up and let's get going with this humorous travelogue of an unfiltered saint, Subiquitous.
We're back again, and it's episode 17. Accommodating Everyone is the episode title. But before I get into that, let me just say thank you to Jackie Householder in Michigan. Jackie, I love you so much. You have been such a blessing to us for many years now. Jackie and I also went on a cruise. What was it, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was a girlfriend's cruise with Susie Schellenberger, and I met so many wonderful women that I'm still connected with after all these years. And so I just want to thank you for just being such great friends and great supporters. And we continue this broadcast because of people just like Jackie and many, many others that help us along the way. Especially during this pandemic, this has been one of those strange years, the 2020 year that we never expected. It's turned into just a way for us to be more creative, to use our juices and our creative juices to do different things, podcasting, and also our Thursday night. Every Thursday night, we do a live virtual concert on Facebook Live on Sue Duffield Ministries page. And if you have not tuned into that, do that on every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. And it's called From the Couch to the Kitchen. And the reason we call it that is because right now, Jeff and I are living in a transitional facility, which I would call, until we get our house, we are living in a 970 square foot apartment.
Transitional facility.
That didn't sound right, did it? Did it sound right?
It sounds like
we're going to the home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
or some other type of facility.
Maybe our next place might be assisted living.
I'm looking for the nurse to come around with my medications for the day.
We need assisted living now. We've needed that for years.
Well, that's true.
Truthfully. But Jeff Duffield, welcome to the show.
Transitional facility.
And I knew you'd like that.
Yeah,
that was kind of funny.
That's creative.
It is creative.
That's going to stick with me today. Okay.
I know. But speaking of accommodating, all right, there's a couple of things I want to talk about today before we get into what I'm really going to talk about.
Segue to segue.
Yeah, here's the segue to the segue. My personality has been always to make everybody happy and to make sure that everybody in the room is comfortable and to never say no and to always just go with the flow, correct?
Yeah.
And as I got older, it was very, very difficult for me to say no. It was very difficult for me to even begin to think, oh, I have to do this. It's Sue Duffield. She must.
You've gotten better.
I really have, and I think the respect.
You never had that problem with me, by the way.
No,
that's a whole nother discussion. Go ahead.
Isn't it funny when you're married? That kind of whole philosophy goes out the window.
You never had a problem.
I never. But
others.
We are living in a very small quarters. Let's just say that, and we're not transitioning into the rehab later.
I hope not.
No.
Anyway.
But we have learned to be satisfied, as Paul says, to be satisfied with what we have. Correct?
Yes.
And we have downsized 3 times, not once, not twice.
That's a nice way of saying we've thrown away junk.
Or we've sold it on Marketplace. Or we've given it away. And we have done an amazing thing for our children that if we should live to be 90-some years old before we see Jesus, we have done something incredible for them. They will have literally nothing to clean up from us. They won't have to do what I had to do in my mom and dad's attic.
They will not have your high school math notebooks like you did with your father. No. They will have a little metal box with all your letters to me.
Oh, I know, the love letters.
But that's a small box.
That's very small.
Yeah, it's
all
a small
6
box.
letters.
But no, I'll never forget the day you brought boxes over and put them in our garage in our home after cleaning your mother's home.
The stuff that we got out of my parents' house.
I looked in there, there were math books. Were your father's notebook
from his 8th grade.
No, his senior year in high school.
Senior year in high school,
1948.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, first of all, What was he doing? I don't even know where my high school diploma
You
is.
didn't even know where your math class was in high school. So let's just go through that.
That was intentional. But have math high school, let alone keep them all those years.
I don't know.
What was he waiting for?
I don't
The teacher
know.
to call him up to make sure he did his homework?
My father was a hoarder.
No.
And my mother was not.
Your father would save work gloves.
Yes.
From DuPont.
Right.
That were worn out.
Well, he would also,
he would bring them home and save them.
Well, and then again, they had like their motorhome. Okay, they had several motorhomes over the years. Mm-hmm. And my mother, in her accommodating ways, would let him sort of take over even the motorhome.
Junk it up is the way to describe
you would
it.
open up a drawer in the motorhome, and be careful, because if you pulled it, it would fall out with all his tools and junk
It's the truth.
and label makers. And I mean,
That's the truth.
And so I would say to my mother, why do you allow this? And I realized, when her next words to me were this: it makes him happy. And I thought, oh no, that's where I get it from.
Yeah, but again, to not repeat, but yet I am repeating. You've managed to conquer that when it comes to me. Yes.
I have. And then I've also conquered it as I got older.
Yes, you did.
That I'm not as worried about offending someone for something that I believe in.
Right.
And I'm very strong at. And I am starting to say no.
Yes.
And I am starting to.
You're not looking to offend people, but,
No.
but you are standing up for yourself.
But you got to understand.
And you will say no.
The brain here, if there is one, the brain says, if someone's mad at you, you're being rejected. Mm-hmm. And I don't like rejection.
Right.
Now, what has happened is I've transferred and I got more mature. Mm-hmm. And I realized that that's not very healthy. That's very codependent is the word. Mm-hmm. So rather than...
Well, you've done well.
Yeah, losing my hair and getting old fast, I decided, it's time for me to speak up for myself.
Well, your hair's still there.
Right. So much so that, Jeffrey...
Yes.
This accommodating everyone also goes into the accommodations department. Okay?
I guess.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how this works.
Okay.
We have had experiences in some accommodations over the years on the road for 47 years.
Oh, you mean accommodations.
Accommodations.
Not accommodating.
Yeah, you see the little twist on the word there?
Aren't you just cute?
I'm just, I'm that creative, right?
Yes, you are.
But the accommodating nature of Sue Duffield in the years past would get through it. It's only one night and you can move on your way.
Right.
Okay, but in the accommodations factor of me being 65 now, I have stood up and said, absolutely not.
Yes.
So I will go back a few times and you can add some of your own scenarios if you'd like. I remember one hotel we pulled into that one organization booked for us. And when we got into the hotel, it wasn't but just 5 minutes we were in there. We started getting bit by fleas. Do you remember that?
I did. Yeah, you were in the bathtub, so they weren't near you.
Oh, I was in the bathtub quick.
Yes,
huh?
you were.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, pretty quick. Yeah.
And you stormed in and said, get your stuff together. There are fleas in this hotel.
Yep.
And so we
not very healthy.
It was awful.
Yep.
Oh my.
Yep.
And so this is what I'm saying. The old Sue Duffield would say back then, "Oh, Jeffrey, let's just work through it. I don't want to offend the church that's booking us here." And you were like, you know what? No. We're out of here. Yeah. We're going to, even if we have to pay for it ourselves, we're going to go to another hotel. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
And then the pastor the next day asked us.
No, he made the mistake of asking.
But if he had asked me...
But it wasn't his fault.
No, it wasn't his
fault. He had
fault.
no way of knowing that the room in the hotel was...
No.
And it was a national chain. It was
a national chain.
Still in business today.
Still in business
You can see their commercials.
Right, right.
And you may have stayed there the night before when you were a doctor or something like that.
But here's what I'm saying. The old accommodating Sue Duffield on accommodations would have said to the pastor...
Yes.
I wouldn't
okay.
have answered. I would have said that was fine.
Yeah.
But no. He went to Jeff Duffield, the literalist.
That was his first mistake. No, Jeff Duffield, the honest. and is not worried about accommodations, not especially when he's scratching several flea bites.
I know. Well, and then you have oh my gosh, they love you. They love your blood.
Yeah, our listeners may not know that and may not be interested.
No, they don't like me.
But
fleas don't bother me. They bother you.
And other
it's because you eat too many
like
M&M peanuts.
Is that
and
what
there's sugar
it is?
in your blood. That's what they.
Okay. That's the reason.
Oh
I
my.
see.
So you said to him, nay, and Pastor, we love you, but don't ever book anybody else in that hotel.
Right. And again, I didn't blame him. He had no idea, no way of knowing that a room would be, and probably the management of the hotel didn't know it, because people, as we know,
didn't we? Did you tell them?
Oh,
I thought
yeah,
you did.
I did.
Somebody had a dog or several dogs.
We got moved. We moved out of that room.
A racetrack of greyhounds in there. I don't know. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and people will do that. They'll sneak animals in.
Yeah.
You can get in a lot of trouble today doing that.
Well, today, and that was many moons ago.
It was.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about, if you have time. I don't want to bore you. But talk about...
As long as you do it fast.
Okay.
Your stories seem to be a little long sometimes.
They get real fast and quick when I'm not interrupted in the middle of them. But that's okay. About the time in Pennsylvania where we did a retreat in the winter and it was cold.
Oh, yeah.
And we went to a certain retreat center, which, as far as I know, is still in existence.
Yes.
Hopefully, they've upgraded the facilities.
They have, and we've had some wonderful experiences in retreat centers, and we've also had some.
Well, this one was not
harrowing,
not so wonderful.
No, it wasn't.
We were in the middle of winter. There was like 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground. It was in the northern part of Pennsylvania, so it was cold. Yeah, pretty cold. And they said, here's where you're going to be staying. And it was one of those typical dormitory rooms. It was cinder block on cement foundation. So
luxury, just luxury at the most.
And it was an older building. And we got in there that night to get ready to go to bed. And we were just, oh my God, we couldn't have been more than 20 or 21 years old. And we discovered it had electric heat, radiant heat. That was, when I say slow, I'm talking real slow. Right. And we ended up sleeping in our clothing with our winter jackets on and zipped both of our sleeping bags that we had brought with us, thankfully, together and put them together, and we slept huddled together.
Yes, we did. It was very...
And by 7 or 8 o'clock the next morning...
Romantic moment.
Oh, yeah. By 7 or 8 o'clock the next morning, it was quite warm and toasty in there, but not at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock the night before.
Thank God we brought those zippered sleeping bags,
and
because
we didn't take our clothes off.
No, I didn't even take my shoes off. I was freezing.
I can't remember that. But anyway, we had our clothes on. We had our winter parkas, jackets on, and then still wrapped up in these sleeping blankets and yearning masses huddling to breathe free and
if I remember, you were saying about halfway in the middle of the night, let's get out of here and let's go down to the local hotel, which really wouldn't have been local because we were way out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, it wasn't that far. But the accommodating person
Sue Duffield
in the room said, no, they would be offended if we left. And I'm like, we'll be frozen if we don't.
I know.
But if you recall, the next night, Mr. Duffield said, enough. I froze one night. I ain't going to freeze the second.
That's the truth.
And we went down and we we ended up paying for it for ourselves.
That's right.
But I don't like being a creamsicle, so I decided to go to a hotel that had heat.
I know. And again, the leader of the camp came to you and asked how everything was. And if they had come to me, I would have said, well, we were a little chilly, but we're fine. We're living today. The optimism in me.
Yeah, I guess.
But, that would not happen today.
Nope.
No.
Oh, nay. I've seen you in action. Yeah, you've learned.
We would not be in that room 6 seconds, and I would have turned around and said, where's the Hyatt?
Well, one would theorize that over the years, you've had enough of those type of rooms.
I've had it.
And you finally got tired, and the accommodation be thrown out the window. You ain't going to freeze in no hotel or no camp dormitory. No.
I know.
Mm-hmm. And you're not going to get bit by fleas.
I'm not doing it anymore. But I had to learn, and I learned from you.
I just learned a little faster.
You're funny. Oh, listen, and let me tell you, talk about some beds that we have slept in over the years.
Oh my, you had to go there too.
Yeah.
Huh? accommodations.
This is always, now in the early years, again, I want to say, when we're starting out in the first decade, a lot of churches would not put us up in hotels. They would give us, the opportunity to stay with people in their congregation.
And some people didn't have an idea what a decent
No,
bed
and-
looked like for a guest.
Right. And that's okay. And we're not being pious about it.
Yes,
but
we are.
I'll never forget the one bed in Canada.
I knew you were going to that one.
I mean, we both got out of this bed. It was a pull-out couch.
It was a pull-out bed
with
couch
spikes in it. It was like something from the Addams Family with
it
Uncle
was an
Fester.
old. This is 35 years ago, more 40 years ago, before children, and it was an old mattress then, and it was
bless their hearts,
it
and they were
had-
wonderful people, by the way.
They were, and it had somehow it was either the metal. The springs from
we
part of the
felt
frame,
every single spring.
but they were broken, and they were sticking us every time we turned
I
over
tell
or
you,
whatever.
It was a torture chamber.
And the next morning,
I
at
slept on the
breakfast-
floor. I remember I got
Yeah,
up and
you
took
did.
a blanket and slept
Yeah.
on the floor.
And
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and we got up the next morning, and the pastor made the mistake
Of
again,
asking you and not
asking
me.
And I looked at him. I said, "You're my friend, right?" Because we did know them.
Yes, they were wonderful
And he
people.
said, "Yes, yes, we're friends." I said, "Well, I wouldn't put my dog on that bed, let alone my friends." And again, I guess he had no idea.
No, they had no idea.
And I said, "You need to go." I said, "Do yourself a favor tonight. Go down there for 15 minutes and sleep on that couch, and you'll see." And then we went back there a year or two later, and he put us up in the nicest hotel in town.
I know. I
And
felt
it was
bad that
a
he felt
lovely
bad.
accommodation.
I know. The accommodating
that
Sue
night.
Duffield was very
So he learned, and
accommodating.
that's okay. Everybody can make a mistake, but that was one of them, and I can give you a bunch more.
Oh, there was another bed too in Jersey years ago that we could barely get out of. You remember we kind of sunk in the middle?
I slept that night on my back with my knees in my face.
I know.
And I'm not. You know me.
No.
You know me. You're given to evangelistically speaking.
I know.
I am not
No,
exaggerating.
I
My
know.
knees were in my face.
I know. Didn't
Yeah.
I have to help you get out? I
Just
think I
about.
think I got out. I finally rolled out of the bed.
Yeah.
And then I had to pull you out. And then we got laughing so hard, and then we were afraid.
And we were
Oh,
there for
my.
a couple of nights.
Oh, was it
and
two? Oh,
the second,
that's
yeah, but the second night I said,
it's
and we
worth-
were only like 40 minutes away
Yeah,
from our
it
home.
was worth
And
driving
we
home.
said, we'll see you later. We're going home to our new bed
Yeah.
that doesn't put our knees in our face. And
I've heard too over the years, we're not the only mobile ministry that
No.
has had an interesting accommodations.
Oh, no.
Our friend Jeff Pearls has got quite a few with his
Some of his stories, I
his
can't even.
stories.
I mean, if
Oh,
you think
my.
ours are bad,
I know.
Yeah.
Places
yeah.
that group has had to stay, and some remote places. And speaking of remote, I had a remote experience when you weren't with me on the road. Actually, there were two times. They gave me the directions to this retreat center, and my flight was late, and I had a rental car.
Oh, I remember you telling me that.
And I got to the church, and about a mile behind the church on a dirt road is their retreat center. Now, I was told it's not a problem. It's unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay. And so I get there, and I'm telling you, Jeff, I have never been creeped out in my life like I was creeped out that night. I drove a mile behind the church in the middle of nowhere among trees, and I mean, it was spooky. And I pull up to this little retreat house. It's what it was. It wasn't a center. It was a retreat house. And there were no lights on, except for a note on the door. And this is what it said: "Welcome, Sue. Come on in." Well, I get in there, and I find out that, first of all, there is no electric in there. And there was no water. And all there was like this, just a basic bed and a couch and a few other things. And they had a fireplace there, I guess, that they would keep it warm. And I was in the middle of nowhere at 1:00 in the morning with no water, no electric, and no cell phone service. And I thought, this is going to be a horror film. I'm going to star in my own horror film. They'll never find me. They'll never know where I am. And so that morning, you're going to laugh. I looked at finally I realized I wasn't too far from, I won't tell what city because that would give it away, but I wasn't too far from a Planet Fitness. So I was a member. So I got up early, like about 6 o'clock that morning, because the sun got me up. It surely wasn't the electric. And I got up that morning, threw all my clothes in the car, and ran to Planet Fitness, got a shower, and then showed up for the Sunday morning worship service. I never told the church. I never said one word, because I was at that point
There
where
was your accommodation.
this is what I'm worth to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
I'm like, oh my word.
It's either a major faux pas or they just don't.
Oh,
yeah, they just don't think.
And it was they were very kind. They're sweet. And like I said on many previous.
Sure, they saved a lot of money putting you in a cabin with no facilities.
But as I've said on many previous episodes, we've been to progressing countries, and I'm used to sleeping on mats on dirt floors and doing things, and that is not a problem. I love missions. I love doing all of that. But prepare me here in the United States of America when you call me to come to your church and you put me in a retreat center that has no electric, no cell service, no Wi-Fi, and no water. I mean, what am I supposed to do?
You've since learned.
I know
to ask certain questions.
Yes, and I even have a little confirmation note.
Be
now,
just a little bit more inquisitive, and I learned it a long time ago as well to ask. As there's just certain questions you can ask and ask them in a certain way, which will reveal
that's true
what the person on the other end of the phone has in mind for you, and you can take proactive steps to avoid sleeping with your knees in your face and without electric and lights and running water and that kind of stuff.
And then I have two reasons why when I travel by myself without you, that I have certain things that I have started to, work through. My therapy says, don't accommodate, don't be kind all the time. Tell them what you want when they ask. So a lot of times I've had some serious allergy problems staying with some people that have had unique smells in their house I'm going to tell you, this one house, I love her dearly. She was a sweetheart, but she burned like 900 candles before I got there. And I hacked and coughed and sneezed all night long. Finally, in the morning, she says to me, this wonderful woman, she says, I guess I had too many candles lit for you last night. I'm thinking, I almost died in the middle of the night. So, and then another scenario, and I don't know if I told you this one either, and I remember writing this in my journal.
You tell me most of them,
but
there may be one that slipped.
Again, I got laid into a hotel, or not a hotel, I got laid into town, and I was staying with this single woman, and she said the key would be underneath the mat. All right. So she had a light on in her house, and she said, just go upstairs and you have the entire room, which was wonderful. It was beautiful, but I didn't have the lights clearly on. It was just the hallway light because I didn't want to, wake up too many people. So I opened the door, and I'm just using the light from the hallway to get into my room. When I get into the room, I close the door. There's a little bit of light coming through the window, so I don't turn any lights on. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And so the next morning I wake up, and to my horror, I look around and there are shelves and shelves and shelves of dolls staring at me. She must have had 150 dolls in this room looking at me. I don't know if it was just one of those moments like, I was like, what in the world?
I don't think I heard this one.
It was great. And I'm not going to tell the name, because once I tell you the name, you'll die laughing.
Okay, now don't go.
But I sat there and I was in a panic of all these dolls are staring at me. They're going to watch me getting dressed.
Well,
it was like Chucky's in the room.
It's not so much as they watch you get dressed as if they tell about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we've probably been more than accommodating of, trying to blend and make people laugh, and hopefully their ears aren't stopped up because of what we've been talking about today. But I want to say there's a couple of stories too in Scripture where are very unique about some accommodations. First of all, we know the greatest story of all, the greatest story ever told. Jesus was not born in a Hyatt Regency. He was born in a stable, and so when you think about that, I laugh because I say, when people say, Jesus lived such a privileged life.
Well, there have been some places that had brought us in for a program, and they figured, well, Jesus was born in a stable.
So
but you won't have a problem staying in our stable.
It's the Jesus amusement park experience.
Yeah.
Be like Jesus, sleep on a bale of hay. Right.
There you go.
I know. But did you know the story about Ezekiel? I don't know if you remember this or not from your Sunday school days, but God tells Ezekiel that in a memorial of the siege of Jerusalem, he needs to build a model of the city. And then he needs to lie down on his left side for 390 days, then his right side for 40 days. And during that time, he's only allowed to eat bread, which he was baked over a fire of human excrement. You know, who am I to complain, right? Who am I to complain about how I sleep and how my accommodations have been? So Ezekiel protests at last, and this last little time he says, so God finally says, okay, you don't have to eat bread that's baked over your own human waste. I got one for you. How about I'll allow you to use cow dung instead? And you can read that story in Ezekiel 1 through 16. We're not the only ones that have had strange accommodations. There are many, many stories in Scripture where it's been very, very unique. So again, we thank you for listening to episode number 17. Can you believe it? 17. We're right here every single week on Tuesday morning for this ubiquitous podcast. Tell your friends and share this podcast and give yourself a chance to laugh a little bit and realize that there are so many wonderful stories yet to be uncovered. And we'll continue each week. You can also continue to write me if you'd like, radiosue@me.com. Get on our website, SueDuffield.com. And another way that you can help support our ministry is through Patreon. Get on patreon.com/Sue Duffield and become a team member with perks. Boy, we have some perks for you. Free books, free CDs, free downloads. Patreon.com/Sue Duffield. Become a member of the Ubiquitous Podcast. And we'll see you next week. This was episode 17. We love you. I'm getting over the accommodating spirit. I'm 65. It's taken me a long time. But we'll talk to you later. Have a great day.